Coming up, Diasporans hailed for their benevolence and stellar contribution to society.
Through your achievement, your service and commitment, you have carried the spirit of Jamaica into communities all around the world.
Our dedication, our sacrifice, our service, these were not offerings made in recognition.
Plus, exploring the career path of a seafarer.
A seafarer is basically people who work on board ships at sea.
Stay tuned for the details during these 30 minutes. I am Jabertha Atkinson, welcoming you to this installment of Jamaica Magazine. Good day, I'm Twyla Whelan and this is your JS News for Thursday, June 25, 2026. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has reiterated the call for a renewed focus on sustainable energy security in the region. He says the need is made especially clear in the face of the recent Middle East conflict and its resulting impact on global oil and food prices, which have significantly affected the economies of small countries like Jamaica. With oil-producing nations such as Guyana, Suriname and Trinidad and Tobago in the region, Dr. Holness argues that true energy independence means retaining value, capital and decision-making locally, so we are not dependent on others when the next global shock hits.
This region holds world-class resources that opens an opportunity we have never had before. Energy security supplied within our own family. Producers supplying reliable oil and gas at fair and predictable prices. Islands given the runway to scale the renewables that suit them best. This is what economic integration was always meant to deliver. Now we have an opportunity to make energy the strongest thread binding our single market together.
The Prime Minister was addressing the 6th edition of the Suriname Energy, Oil and Gas Summit and Exhibition on Wednesday. He reasserted Jamaica's commitment to generating half of our electricity from renewable resources by 2030 as the government continues to diversify the country's energy base.
Energy security for a small island like Jamaica is never about betting on one fuel or one supplier. It is about building many parts so that we keep the lights on, the economy moving, the cost of living within reach of our people, whatever the world may throw at us.
More than 2,200 households in hurricane-affected communities have been wired for electricity under the National Energy Poverty Reduction Project, NEPRP. The program is a $1 billion initiative being implemented by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, in partnership with the Ministry of Energy. Of the households wired so far, more than 500 have already been connected to the national grid, with the remaining beneficiaries expected to receive service in phases. Speaking at a recent JS think tank, project manager Dane McLean explained that the existing program was expanded after Hurricane Melissa to assist residents in some of the hardest hit communities. To support the implementation, JSIF has established temporary community offices to make it easier for residents to access the program and complete the application process.
We've been a JPS on board. Communities are able to actually come in on location within their communities where they're able to actually sign up for the services. And once they would have signed up for the services, we actually have a contract team that goes in, get the homes wired. So we give them what we call a starter system, wherein they get 2 lights, 2 plugs, the necessary GER certification that allows them to become connected to the grid immediately.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange has launched a new micro-market, creating a pathway for small and emerging businesses to access equity financing from $50 million up to $100 million that will help them grow through the capital market. The JSE micro-market is designed to bridge the financing gap facing small businesses seeking capital to expand operations and create jobs.
The micro-market is an extension, of course, of the purpose, widening access to capital formation for the smallest enterprises among us.
This is why the micro-market is more than a new market segment. It broadens participation, it deepens Jamaica's capital market ecosystem, and enables firms and SMEs to access financing options across the business lifecycle.
Finance Minister Favour Williams has praised the venture for providing structured access to equity financing while offering attractive incentives for participating companies.
It's a full income tax holiday for the first 5 years after listing. Followed by a 50% income tax concession for years 6 through 10.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange says 10 companies are already preparing to enter the new micro market. Minister of Labour and Social Security Pernell Charles Jr. is encouraging employers to view the new minimum wage increase as a floor and not a ceiling. Speaking in Parliament on Tuesday, the minister asserted that employers who go beyond the statutory minimum wage were investing in their workforce and the country at large.
Let us move, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, from compliance to genuine appreciation. A well-supported workforce is not only good for workers and their families, it is also good for productivity, business growth, and national development.
As a reminder to the public, effective July 1, the national minimum wage will increase from $16,000 to $17,000 for a 40-hour work week. Along with that, the standard hourly rate will move from $400 to $425, while overtime pay will increase from $600 to $637.50 per hour. Double time pay for work on rest days and public holidays will rise from $800 to $850 per hour.
The minimum wage for industrial security guards is also to be increased from $16,000 to $17,000 per 40-hour work week, with corresponding adjustments.
The Ministry of Education has expanded its National School Garden project to 79 institutions across Jamaica, tripling its investment since the initiative was launched in 2024. The milestone was highlighted during the National School Garden Grand Exhibition 2026, held recently at Jose Marti Technical High School in St. Catherine under the theme, From the Farm to the Table. The exhibition showcased projects from 56 early childhood, primary, special education and secondary institutions. Deputy Chief Education Officer for Core Curriculum and Support Services, Dr. Winnie Berry, says the initiative reflects the ministry's commitment to promoting healthy lifestyles, strengthening food security, and equipping students with practical life skills.
The Ministry of Education and Youth is proud of this remarkable growth of this project. What began in 2024 with an investment of $10 million and participation from 23 schools has now expanded into its third phase with an investment of $30 million, benefiting 79 schools across Jamaica.
She emphasized that the National School Garden project was designed as a sustainable program rather than a showcase activity, with students actively engaged in container gardening, hydroponics, vegetable and herb cultivation, poultry rearing, and apiculture.
The School Garden project exemplifies authentic TVET learning by providing opportunities for students to apply scientific concepts, develop technical competencies, solve real-world problems, and cultivate entrepreneurial thinking.
And finally, the National Water Commission, NWC, is advising that some residents in St. Andrew will experience low to no water supply through to Saturday, June 27th. Corporate Public Relations Manager at the NWC, Delano Williams, says the disruption, which began yesterday, is necessary to facilitate scheduled cleaning activities and other maintenance works, which will impact operations at the Mona treatment plant.
Based on the phased nature of this work, we've had to scale down the total output of the water that is normally produced here at the plant. This reduction will cause, to some locations, low pressures, and in other locations, you may lose water altogether.
He says the NWC is doing its best to maintain the highest volume of output during this period, but does anticipate having to truck water to some communities, especially those in elevated areas. Areas that will generally be impacted by the water disruption include Mona, Crossroads, Mountain View, Old Hope Road, Devon Square, Waterloo Road, Cassia Park, Eastwood Park, and Red Hills Road. It will also impact water supply below Grantspen, along Halfway Tree Road, Upper Maxfield Avenue, Zadie Gardens, Dunrobin and New Kingston, as well as other areas. For updates, members of the public may contact the Water Agency at 888-225-5692. And that's it for JS News Today. I'm Twyla Whelan. Thanks for watching.
What's really inside your child's drink? Let's count it out. A 600 milliliter soda can contain 15 to 20 teaspoons of sugar, but the recommended daily allowance for children ages 2 to 18 is less than 6 teaspoons. And that 450 milliliter box drink, it can contain 12 to 15 teaspoons of sugar. Children under 2 should have no added sugar at all. So instead of reaching for sugary drinks, encourage your children to drink water, because when you know what's in the drink, making healthier choices is easy. 7 outstanding Jamaicans were recognized for their remarkable contribution to the country and the global diaspora in various areas. They were hailed by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen for being ambassadors and role models for their country. Here's a recap of the presentation which took place at the recently concluded Diaspora Conference in Montego Bay.
Today, we honor 7 extraordinary members of the diaspora whose efforts profoundly impact our global community and exemplify the strength of our unity and purpose.
Through your achievement, your service and commitment, you have carried the spirit of Jamaica into communities all around the world. The 7 awardees we honor today exemplify steadfast service to Jamaica and significant achievement in their respective fields. Ms. Lisa Rutty for diaspora engagement and humanitarian support.
She played a pivotal role in mobilizing humanitarian support during disaster relief efforts, helping to raise over 700,000 Canadian dollars, and coordinated critical aid shipments to Jamaica while also championing community engagement, education, and entrepreneurship initiatives.
Ms. Christina McPherson for mentorship and immigrant empowerment.
She has empowered newcomers and members of the Jamaican diaspora by providing guidance, support, and opportunities for successful settlement and career growth.
Mr. Carl Samuels for preserving Caribbean heritage and strengthening communities.
For over 14 years, he has selflessly invested his time, resources, and effort to preserve cultural identity, promote mentorship, and create opportunities for intergenerational management, engagement, and empowerment. His impactful leadership in organizing Wolverhampton's Hurricane Melissa Relief Appeal, which provided critical assistance to more than 800 families in Jamaica, highlights his commitment to humanitarian service and community development.
Ms. Asher Richards for migration advocacy and disaster response initiatives. Dr. Richard White for advancing education and access to social services.
As a youth changemaker with the International Organization for Migration, she successfully advocated for greater Caribbean representation in migration discussions and highlighted the challenges faced by Jamaicans displaced by Hurricane Melissa. Her leadership translated advocacy into action by facilitating partnerships that secure temporary housing assistance for displaced educators and their families, demonstrating her commission, resilience, and commitment to serving vulnerable communities. Through his leadership, he has advanced educational opportunities, empowered individuals, and championed initiatives that improve access to essential social services for underserved populations. His dedication to community upliftment, resilience, and transformative leadership has made him an inspiring figure within the Jamaican diaspora and a deserving recipient of the 2026 Governor General's Diaspora Achievement Award.
Dr. Sandra Colley-Durant for significant contributions to diaspora mentorship and youth development.
Through her leadership as Vice Chair of the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council and founder of the Jamaica Diaspora Mentorship Academy, she has created meaningful opportunities for mentorship, education, and personal growth for young Jamaicans in numerous countries. Her decades of dedicated service, humanitarian leadership, and tireless efforts to strengthen diaspora connections have left a lasting legacy of empowerment, resilience, and community upliftment.
And Dr. Nicolene Johnson for strengthening trade, educational exchange, and cultural cooperation between Jamaica and China.
As the first Jamaican to earn both a master's and a PhD from a Chinese university, she has dedicated nearly 3 decades to strengthening trade, cultural exchange, and educational opportunities between Jamaica, the Caribbean, and China. She has created lasting economic and social impact while proudly advancing Jamaica's presence on the global stage.
Let us remember that the true measure of a nation is not found in its size nor its wealth, but in the willingness of its people to lift each other up.
Your Excellency, I speak for each of us when I say we did not set out to earn these awards. Our dedication, our sacrifice, our service, these were not offerings made in recognition. They were offerings made for love, love of country, love of heritage, love of people who shaped us, the island that formed us, and the Jamaica that we forever will love in our hearts.
You're ambassadors of our culture. You are ambassadors of our customs, our heritage, and partners in our development. So to this year's distinguished awardees, I offer my heartiest congratulations.
The sun is no joke, especially in the middle of the day. So, what do you do to protect yourself?
Slap on some sunscreen that's SPF 30 or higher. Sunscreen should be broad spectrum and water resistant, especially for beach or pool days, and reapplied every 2 hours.
And while you're at it, slip on a shirt to protect your skin. Light, breathable fabrics are best.
Lastly, seek shade between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. because this is when the sun's UV rays are strongest. Skin safety is your safety. Cover up today and try your best to keep cool. Oh, I know I've already said it, but please remember, not because we're black means we don't need sunscreen. All skin types do.
They are the backbone of global trade, spending months at sea to keep goods moving across the world. Yet their stories often go untold. In this feature, we take a closer look at the lives, challenges, and contributions of seafarers, the ones who help to keep the world connected. Every day, thousands of ships travel the world's oceans, carrying the goods and commodities that keep countries connected and economies moving. Behind every voyage is a dedicated crew of professionals whose work often go unseen but whose contributions are felt around the globe.
A seafarer is basically people who work on board ships at sea.
Simple enough, but their impact reaches far beyond the vessel itself.
It is the ships that bring goods between countries. They transport goods to countries. So almost everything, every item, every commodity that you use or consume, it travels on a ship at some point in the whole process of getting to you. So in order to get all of these goods from China, from Japan, from Europe, to other parts of the world, they're usually transported by ships.
And for an island nation like Jamaica, that role is especially significant.
Economically, is a great contribution. We have 10 active ports in Jamaica, and ships are always coming in and out of those ports. And it's all about the commerce, so the more ships we have, the greater the commercial activities. And so, that's a huge contribution really to the economy of Jamaica.
Career-wise, the maritime industry offers opportunities both at sea and on land.
The maritime industry, it's a very illustrious one, I would say. Very filled with activities and adventure. Every ship that you see out there on the high seas has a team of people on the shore who is handling the ship and seeing to the safe navigation and operation of the ship. Both from the ship side, i.e. you're going to be seeing to it that the ship is safe. You're going to be providing support to the ship while it's at sea. And then there's the other set of people who see about the cargo. As you can imagine, there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of rules and regulations to comply with. We have immigration, we have customs, we have the agent.
For Captain Helps, the journey into this world wasn't always the plan.
But it didn't work out, so I got an opportunity, I should say, to work on board the ship, to get training on the ship. So I started out at the Caribbean Maritime. At the time, it was the Jamaica Maritime Training Institute. That was in about 1984 or something like that. I worked my way up from being a cadet to being captain, and that whole process took me about 10 years. Really. I also did some studies in shipping logistics. I did a master's degree in shipping logistics and supply chain management. I also did another master's degree in marine management with the Fairfax University. So it's been quite a journey. So I also lectured at the Caribbean, what is now the Caribbean Maritime University. I was a lecturer there.
It all began with a voyage he still remembers more than 4 decades later.
We sailed out of Kingston on, I think it was September 6, 1984. I'll never forget it. It was on board the MV Arthur. That was the name of the ship, MV Arthur. And we were bound for Puerto Cortez in Honduras. There was a system, and you were part of the program, and you were assigned an officer, so you were kind of looking over the shoulder of that officer, see what he's doing, and sometimes take the rein and try it for yourself. So it was very good, very enlightening, very encouraging. It wasn't one of those cases where I said, well, this is not for me. At that point, I said, yeah, man, this is, I could work with this.
Today, after decades at sea, he understands the realities of life aboard a vessel. Breakfast at 7, lunch at noon, and dinner at 5 p.m. But life at sea is about much more than routines and schedules.
Kingston Pilots, Jamaica Street, over.
Go ahead, Jamaica Street.
We are operating in a commercial environment, and the cargo has to be delivered on time, in time. So therefore, you check your speed, you check your estimated time of arrival. If the ship is in port, then you have to see about the cargo. The cargo is being loaded or the cargo is being discharged. So the seafarer will have to see to the safe loading or discharging of the cargo. The officers will have a lot of paperwork to do. As you can imagine, there's a lot of paperwork involved with that. There's immigration, there's customs, there's the cargo, there's all sorts of, there's quarantine, and the officers will be seen about that. So basically, then of course there's an opportunity when the ship is in port to also load water, fresh water, because you're going to need water on the ship. So you might want to load some water if you're short. You might also want to load some fuel if you're short. There's also spare parts. Spare parts might be coming, so you need to see about that. It's also an opportunity to do a crew change.
Being away from family for extended periods can be one of the profession's biggest challenges.
It's one of those things you get used to, because I've had to deal with it myself. At first it might seem it's a challenge, it's something strange and you're not used to it, but after a while you get used to it, and you're just going to have to try a little bit harder in terms of like the communication. It's very, very important. So every chance you get, you would try and keep in touch with your family. If you're in the middle of the Atlantic, you could make a phone call or a video call to your family at home and find out how things are going.
Yet, despite the sacrifices, it is a career filled with experiences few people will ever have.
The most memorable experience of my career, I would say, were some of the challenges I had. One of the greatest challenges I had was crossing the Atlantic from, we were bound from Halifax, southbound for Miami, and we ran into a hurricane. And it wasn't a direct hit. I think we passed about 70 miles from it, which is very close for a hurricane. It was an error on the part of the navigation, and so we ended up almost perished, you could say. So I remembered it, and it's something that always stood out in my memory, because I remember sleeping in my life jacket for most of the time during that period, because I was telling myself that we could go down anytime now.
For Captain Helps, every voyage has brought lessons, challenges, and opportunities for growth. His story is a reminder that seafarers are more than the people who operate ships. They are the men and women who help keep the world connected. This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Join us again tomorrow for another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via X at JIS News. You may also find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the production crew here at the JIS, I'm Jabertha Atkinson. Take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.